Hey Cycle 1 TPAers, welcome or welcome back to TPA Cafe. I know that a lot of you are in the thick of working on your Cycle 1 TPA right now and thinking about what am I going to film for my TPA, what am I going to plan for my TPA. And so I wanted to make a video that talks about, this is a little bit of a different topic than I've done before, but the 5 most common reasons that people don't pass their Cycle 1 TPA. Things that happen where if they had done something just a little differently, they could have passed, but these are the areas that I have seen that make the difference between people passing and not passing. Number 1, rubrics. I've said this so many times, but the rubrics are your movie script. They are the explicit criteria that you need to be demonstrating on your TPA. So knowing your rubrics as well as you possibly can, like you've printed them out, you've taken a highlighter to them, you know the criteria for success, you're explicitly demonstrating the criteria for success in your TPA. The people that know the rubrics super well are the people that score the higher scores on their CalTPA. It's just a fact. So knowing your rubrics super well, knowing the criteria for success, having studied it, and knowing exactly what you need to say and do in order to get the score that you want is a great way to solidify a higher score on your Cycle 1 CalTPA. Number 2, and I've said this before as well, the people that answer the questions in full and the prompts in full are the people that score the higher scores on their Cycle 1 CalTPA. So there are so many prompts throughout your CalTPA in all of the templates that you have that are asking you to answer questions. So the TPA is an evidence package. So the way that you're answering these questions, and people have asked me before, how much do I need to write? And well, I would say write like your credential depends on it, because it does. So that means to me, if you're being vague in any way, you're not really giving them the evidence that you need to be giving them to get the higher scores. So I have a video on this channel called Giving Evidence with CEI, which is Claim Evidence Impact. I think you should take a look at that. But writing with purpose and intentionality is going to help you solidify the higher scores. So when you answer all of the prompts and questions in full, you're going to do the things you need to do to be able to get the higher scores. You need to answer all parts of the question. The second thing is, when you make a claim, you need to give significant evidence to back that claim up. And if you can take it a step further and talk about the impact that these decisions are going to have on your students, then even better. So we're talking about really strengthening our writing on each of the prompts. And so for every single question, you have an opportunity. And the opportunity is asking you to give significant evidence, claim evidence impact around how the teacher moves and decisions that you are making are impacting your students. And so taking every single question and prompt and being really thorough with each of them is going to be a great way to solidify or strengthen all of your responses and hopefully a higher score on your Cycle 1 CalTPA. Number 3, and I have said this in other videos as well, but this is huge. So the people that score the higher scores on the CalTPA, I'm going to say actually this. The people that score the lower scores on their CalTPA are people who have a lesson that is planned, grounded in lower order thinking. So that means as a candidate, you need to know the difference between lower order thinking and higher order thinking and what that means for your lesson. You need to be teaching a lesson with a learning objective that is grounded in higher order thinking and a lesson that's 100% planned in alignment to that learning objective that's getting the children to demonstrate higher order thinking. If your lesson is planned using lower order thinking, it's going to trickle into every part of your CalTPA. It's going to start with your lesson plan and your rubrics so the first 4 rubrics are for your planning. So it's going to trickle in to all 4 of those rubrics. It's going to trickle into your videos, and then it's going to trickle into the rest of your CalTPA. So what I would be doing if I were you is making sure that you 100% know the difference between lower and higher order thinking. So taking a look at Bloom's taxonomy, Webb's depth of knowledge, Karen Hess's cognitive rigor matrix. I have these all linked in one of my other YouTube videos. And really knowing, like, is my lesson grounded in higher order thinking? Is my learning objective written to get the children to demonstrate higher order thinking? Because that one step is crucial in order for you to score the higher scores on your CalTPA. If you do a lesson, I don't want to scare anybody by saying this, but if you do a lesson, if you plan a lesson that is rote or grounded in lower order thinking, it's going to be very hard for you to pass your CalTPA. Number 4, your lesson plan rationale, your step 1C. At the bottom of that document, it asks you to talk about the supports and scaffolds that you have in place for each of your focus students, and you're going to be able to talk about the focus students one by one. The thing that happens most often, and reasons that I see most commonly the people that don't pass the Cycle 1 CalTPA is that, and they get 2s on these sections, is because they are not connecting this section back to what they know about their focus students, what they learned about their focus students in the Getting to Know Your Students document. So the way that you want to put your evidence into each of these paragraphs or each of these sections is you want to kind of remind the assessors what you know about your focus students' assets and learning needs. So focus student 1 has the following assets, and here's what I'm doing in my lesson to build on those assets. Give the evidence. The student's learning needs are, the student has the following learning needs, this thing, this thing, this thing. Here's what I'm doing in my lesson to support the students in their learning needs. So you want to be very much connected back to what you know about your students' assets and learning needs, and what are you doing about it in your lesson. How are you using that information to engage the children in the lesson? So if you're writing that way, so first of all, vague in any way, it's not gonna get you the score that you want. So, but giving that kind of evidence where you're like, this is the student's assets. Here's what I'm doing to build on that. This is the student's learning needs. Here's what I'm doing to support them in their learning needs. Here's how it's going to benefit this student. Again, claim evidence impact, right? And so if you're writing that way on those paragraphs, the thing that I see most often with people that aren't passing and are getting 2s on that section, that's 3 rubric scores, 1 for each of your focus students. It's because people are not making that connection back to, here's what I know about the kids, and here's what I'm doing in my lesson to capitalize on what I know about the kids, their assets, their learning needs, and how I'm maximizing the learning for each of these students. So if you write like that, it's going to help you strengthen that entire section, which again is 3 rubric scores. Number 5. So what you say you're going to be teaching next on your step 4 apply. So you've taught the lesson, the students have demonstrated your learning goals or possibly not, and it's going to ask you on your step 4 apply, okay, well, now that you've taught this lesson, what are you going to be teaching next? So whatever you say you're going to be teaching next needs to be connected to and building on what you taught today in your TPA lesson. If you say that you're going to do something that's disconnected from whatever you taught today, it's not going to work. If you say that you're going to do something that's like the same that you taught today, it's not going to work. They want to see that you know how to do a lesson progression, meaning whatever you taught today you need to be building on that in your next lesson. So let's just say your students didn't demonstrate the learning goals and you need to do a reteach. You can say that you're going to do a reteach, but then you still want to say, after my students demonstrate this learning goal, here's what I'm going to be teaching next. Because they want to know what it is that you're going to do to build on the skills you taught today. And here's an example from our TPA coordinators meeting. If you taught, just a random example, I know not everybody's teaching elementary school math. If you taught how to add fractions with common denominators for your TPA lesson, then what you can teach next, it's building on but connected to this learning objective, is how to subtract fractions with common denominators. So you're building on the skills they learned today, but doing something different and building on that, right? So that's what you need to talk about in terms of like what you're going to do next. It needs to be connected to and building on your TPA lesson. And anything else, if it's disconnected, it's not going to get you a 3 or higher. It's just not. So I'm just going to give it to you straight. So friends, I hope that helped you figure out what you need to do to be able to avoid some of these common pitfalls that land students with scores that are less than the scores that they really would like. Typically a lot of 2s that we're seeing when people do these things, and too many 2s does not lead to a passing TPA score. So we want to really nail that score of a 3 or higher. And I hope this video will help you do that. So thanks so much for watching today, and happy TPA.